Well.
Look what the cat dragged in.
It's the Liquidity event.
With your hosts, AJ Ayers.
And Shane Mason. What was that? What was that accent you were doing?
AJ Ayers.
Oh, you're doing whoa. You're doing Vuvuzela?
Ayers. Yeah. Load fee.
Load fee.
Was that accent?
Nailed that. This is episode 17 of the Liquidity event. We're being recorded on November 17th, 2021. Next week is...
Ooh, 17 on 17.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's like Capricorn moon or whatever.
Yeah, it's triple fire, half waning gibbous.
Dragon time.
Retrograde Jupiter. Shout out to my astrology girls and boys listening to this. Let us know if this was a good time to record or if this episode is going to suck based on the stars.
This episode is in retrograde.
Already?
What do you... Well, that will be the title of this episode.
This episode is in retrograde.
Shane, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking Ardbeg and Islay Scotch whiskey. Would you like me to mansplain it to you again?
For the 6th time on the show? I think I'll pass on that one.
Yo, big shout out to your cousin. We got back from XYPN's conference last week in Denver, Colorado, which was epic. It was awesome. Got to meet some clients, a bunch of friends, colleagues that we haven't seen in years, and some new folks. And I got to meet your cousin who shares a similar infatuation with Islay Scotch whiskey. And we both had stories about trying to get to the island, and the gods did not want us to get there.
Fails.
Yeah, it was cool. My car broke down, had to get scrapped for like 50 pounds that I couldn't cash the check. And she got stuck in a hotel, or she flew over the island multiple times, but the fog was so thick that they had to turn around a few times. Yikes.
Wait.
Your cousin's cool.
You hate to see it. Shout out Samantha. Miss you, cousin Sam and Dan. Where are you in the world?
I'm in Brooklyn. This will be the last week I'm in this house for this recording.
Wow.
I've been here 5 years, and I had a roommate when I first got here that was a human, and now I have a roommate that has 4 legs, not a human. My little boy Charlie and I are a little cramped in here, so we're out of here. I am also a snowbird now. For those that don't know, I was in Mexico last winter. I think I'll be in LA for the majority of this winter. So any listeners in LA, hit me up. January through March, essentially all of tax season. Charlie and I are going to come down and experience some of that outdoor lifestyle y'all enjoy so much. AJ, you're an LA native.
I am an LA native, if you couldn't tell already.
She's from La La Land, y'all.
La la la. What are you doing for fun?
Well, the other thing that we did last week was climb some mountains. After the conference, I climbed some mountains over the weekend. I went to Great Sand Dunes National Park, and then I tried to climb 14,000. Tried to get my first 14er, which I'm not up to speed on dirtbag mountain climbing, so I didn't realize I was going to get insane altitude sickness at about 12,000 feet.
You hate to
the guys I was with were like, "No, you'll be fine. You live in New York. You walk everywhere." I was like, "Yeah, not at a 45-degree incline above the tree
you walk
line
on a sidewalk below sea
level."
For about 0.7 miles a day.
Yeah, no, it was horrendous. But coming back to sea level, I sure feel vibrant after being oxygen deprived for 2 days. Yeah, that's what I'm doing for fun. Also, moving, which is the worst thing in the world.
Indeed. I am preparing my Thanksgiving menu for next week. I'm hosting a Friendsgiving, and I've never been a fan of like traditional Thanksgiving dinner, so I'm doing a Korean feast, a Korean Thanksgiving. We're gonna make some sundubu tofu stew. We're gonna make some dumplings. It's gonna be awesome.
Speaking of alternative dinners for the holidays, what is your favorite scene from A Christmas Story, and why is it the scene where they get the Peking duck at the Chinese restaurant? And
yeah, well, it's either that or the leg or the tongue stuck to the... I mean, the tongue stuck to the pole is just such an iconic...
That's low-hanging fruit. That's the food scene, remember? It's smiling at me, and then the Chinese guy cuts his head off.
Wow. I mean, this is just clearly evidence that it's been, 325 days since I watched A Christmas Story, and it's time to fire it up again.
Right.
Right. Let's get into our...
It's so busted.
Oh man, I'm bad at this. All right, IPOs, upcoming IPOs. Anything exciting that we need to talk about? We had a really exciting IPO today. We had Braze go public.
Uh-huh.
Shares were supposed to price at around $65, and we saw them get up to $90. So congratulations to all of our Braze clients. Have a few of you. I've met some of you. Very happy for, a fantastic exit for those who were able to participate in selling shares on the first day. One thing I was thinking about with IPOs, and like Shane, before we got on, you were asking about like why does it matter on like the first day? Like what is the benchmark for like a great IPO? What is a successful
right qualitatively
IPO, right?
and quantitatively, what defines it? Because the market says, or the media, the financial media likes to say, ooh, rough IPO, or IPO above average. What the hell is the average? What is a good IPO? What does it even mean? What does it mean to you versus what does it mean to your average retail investor?
Right, and it's like the shares were priced at X and they traded 35% over. Like, congratulations. Well, who set the price? Maybe it was the investment bank that had a stake in or
Random
had
arbitrary
interest in wanting.
price.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But who does the IPO day one price matter to the most? The people who have double trigger RSUs, right? So if you're an employee at a company, you've got restricted stock units granted to you. They're vesting. You don't actually receive the shares or to pay taxes on them until there's a liquidity event. And like today we
Oh, that's
saw
a
with
cool
Braze.
phrase. Liquidity event.
Yeah, liquidity event.
Yeah.
Weird. Yeah. You didn't ask me what I was drinking earlier, by the way. I'm drinking a really nasty red wine from the country of Georgia. It's delicious.
Great segue.
Anyways, gonna turn this boat around, back up a little bit. So people have RSUs. Like the day one price matters dramatically. I mean, you could have $1 million of RSUs vesting on day one.
Who are all the stakeholders, AJ? Why don't we make some context for who's involved in the IPO?
I mean, it depends on how you're doing it. Are you doing direct listing? If you were going
standard
public,
IPO underwritten by a bank.
Yeah, so we've got our investment bank who's gonna come in. They're gonna evaluate the financials of the company. Usually there's a couple of them. Usually it's not just one bank. It's usually we've got like Morgan Stanley, we've got JP Morgan Chase, we've got Jefferies. They're all involved. They're all putting up some capital to take this company public. And the purpose, right, is the company wants to raise money to then invest back into their company. So looking at Braze's S1, it's like the way that like all of these IPO, we got to come up with like a benchmarking for these
who else is
IPOs.
involved? They got the underwriter, the banks that is creating the market, like shopping the shares around because no one else held the shares outside of the company, right? Prior to this. So now they're going to go out to mom and dad, around mom and pop, and they're going to say, hey, you need this.
Wait, who's mom and pop here?
Well, ETFs, direct investors,
like the big institutional
investors.
investors. Yeah, like the Harvard endowment fund that's going to like move the market, not Brooklyn FI or not Joe Schmo.
And they're going to pick a price, right? And they're going to create a price, and they're going to say this company is worth X amount of dollars per share, right? And then what?
And then what do you mean?
Well, I mean, who else is involved? So the institutional investors, underwriters, and then the people actually already holding the shares, right? The people that work at that company. And they all want the price to go up, right?
Right.
No, I'm just creating some context.
Okay,
yeah, I'm not quizzing you.
There's a lot of people.
Just like for the listener.
Like, where are we going with this?
Well,
there's a lot of people involved.
Yeah.
In taking this company public. And what do they all want, right? They all want the price to go up, right? This is a moment where they finally have liquidity. All of these people have been waiting. Some founders, decades, or as we saw with like, what was it, the United Fruit Corporation, like centuries to go public to create this market where they could actually get liquidity, sell their shares, use that cash to reinvest in a real portfolio, buy a house, buy a Tesla, buy a Rivian, whatever you need to do with that money. See how I snuck that in there?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Braze's, there's this excellent Substack that I want to shout out called Clouded Judgment. I've been subscribed to this newsletter for a while now. Just like got great data and benchmarking. You know, like how do we think about these IPOs when they have a successful day one? Like this guy takes a bunch of data and benchmarks all these companies against each other. So for example, Braze, headlines I'll say super successful IPO. Looking at the last 12 months of revenue, like how does Braze stack up amongst all these other companies? For the last 12 months, Braze's revenue was 186 million. How does that compare with, let's say, a company like, who do we have on here? Like Avalara, who does
Surf Tax.
I know that sales
Mhm.
tax, right? Yeah, they're a tax calculation company. Their last 12 months revenue was 595 million. So that's like a nice thing to compare it to. Or we have Salesforce all the way at the end, which is billions and billions and billions of dollars. So they're at the top of the cloud SaaS company revenue leaders. So Salesforce is the big guy here in the space. What else we got going public this week?
Sweetgreen. How can you not? How could you not?
How could you not
How
let me
could
talk about
you
Sweetgreen?
not? I feel
I was
I
talking
feel
about.
like I'm the bigger
I spent
Sweetgreener than you, actually.
I spent 15 minutes of a year-end tax planning meeting today talking about Sweetgreen with the client.
Like literally just the company or like the ingredients? Like,
No, the green goddess salad specifically.
okay, maybe you do own the Sweetgreen conversation. Yeah, Sweetgreen's trying to raise over $250 million to expand their operations via an IPO the week of this week. Yeah, they're going to be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Target price around $23 to $25, 12.5 million shares. Yeah, I mean, typical fast growing, what do we call these in the Chipotle space? Fast casual restaurant.
Fast
Yeah,
cash.
fast
Yeah.
cash.
I went to high school with the CEO
Little
of Sweetgreen.
fast cash for the fast cash. Middle Eastern guy?
Yeah, Jonathan Neiman.
Right on. We also have Kindercare Learning Company going public this week. I wonder how much the political environment is encouraging a pre-K or a kindergarten company to go public, raise money ahead of any increased demands due to the Build Back Better legislation that could put a lot of money into childcare. And
is pre-K the new healthcare in terms of private companies figuring out how they can get the government handouts and own the programs?
I don't know, but I don't know. I don't have kids. I feel weird talking about childcare, but I think that the earliest we can put kids into childcare, let's fund it with my taxes. I'm good with that. Take it, put those kids somewhere where they can socialize and get the skills they need for a better future in America. I don't care that I don't get anything out of that except that the next generation isn't dumb and they're taken care of and we can keep this train rolling. Let's do it.
Your interest in the pre-K program is future Brooklyn at 5 financial
There we
planners.
go. Sure.
So that's your vested interest, is that you want the next generation of, smart, left brain, right brain, empathetic advisors to get great education starts at pre-K.
Deep technical abilities and also knows how to be extroverted when necessary due to their time. There is a kid in Kindercare right now that will work for Brooklyn FI in the next 20 years. Guarantee it.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet them.
Same.
Thanks, Biden.
Yeah.
We've also got Austin Gold going
That's my
public.
buddy.
Your guy,
That's just my buddy, Austin Gold. He's going public this week.
Ooh, speaking of which, there's nothing interesting to say about this. It's a Canadian gold mining company going public. I have nothing to add here.
What, Austin Gold?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's a gold mining company. Let's hop on that one. Let's hop on that train. Looks like they're raising $12 million in their IPO.
Yeah, I decided today that we're going to take Brooklyn FI public, and I'm targeting a 2029 IPO date. February 28th, 2029.
2029.
You heard it here first.
Okay. Am I going to be involved in that, or?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
So,
I'm just letting you know now.
Okay.
Who are the stakeholders? Right. It's me and
I don't like making promises I can't keep. Yeah. Well, it looks like Austin Gold can go public by raising $12 million. So I don't know. Maybe we can do earlier than 2029 based on the size of that IPO.
All right. I'm down for earlier. I think I need some time to stretch my wings a little bit, though.
Yeah. That's 8 years from now. We'll have plenty of time to get that enterprise value up way beyond.
Let's get into some articles.
Yeah. What do we have here?
Oh my God.
The very first one is not finance related at all. You threw this in here.
It is just terrifying.
Yeah, let's get out of finance land and let's just talk horror, like horror, biblical horror situations.
For those who have not read the Bible or are unfamiliar with the plagues.
His Old Testament.
There was
the majority of
Old Testament shit, Passover. Yeah. There was horrible flooding in Egypt. Unfortunately, a lot of folks lost their homes. These like dry desert mountain villages. Floods come through. People displaced. Unfortunately, also the scorpions, the particular species called deathstalker scorpions, were displaced from their sandy burrows. and like were flooded these towns, and 500 people in one night were bitten by these scorpions. Terrifying. Like,
They weren't stung.
imagine like
The scorpions bit them. It was a freak.
whatever,
It was a freak.
sting, bite.
It was a freak. They
Whatever.
were really hungry. They came out.
Okay, fine. They were stung, not bitten. I apologize. Let me issue a correction.
Well, apparently
You're calling this the top of the market. The killer scorpions.
that's the top. Calling it. It's all downhill from here.
Okay.
Millennials move to cash. We're purchasing. We're buying the dip. We're buying the sting.
You've got an article here from the Wall Street Journal about how financial advisors set their fees. What's on your mind here?
Wait, that reminds me of that other advisor's article that tried to let people know how much their coffee habit costs them every day. The most annoying fucking approach to personal finance. And then the tagline is buy the drip. Oh God. Drip coffee.
Oh my God.
Oh man. All right. Anyway, yeah.
What a nightmare.
Oh, please. The problem with how many financial advisors set their fees, article from the Journal about it's like a typical article about letting people know how much their financial advisor actually charges them. It's, people.
Is this Swag?
No, it's not Swag. I mean,
No?
Swag has written this article like probably 20 times. This is by, where's the byline here? Glenn Rufinock. I hope I pronounced that correct. But it's just a reminder that your advisors will charge you a percentage of the assets that you manage for them. The typical advisor does, right? So if you're not providing, that typical advisor isn't providing ongoing services in years 2, 3, and 4, they charge you a percentage of the assets that they manage for you, then their job probably gets easier. But as your assets grow, they continue to take more and more away from your nest egg. It's like, yeah, okay. So make sure that your advisor, generates value each year, and that they continue to work.
As the assets get bigger, the complications increase, right? There's a lot more to think about. The stakes are bigger.
They can be, yeah. There's this silly quote here that said he tries to compare it to a plumber that shows up to your house and says, "How much money do you have?" instead of quoting you just based on the amount of the work. And the owner says, "I got 100K." So the plumber says, "My fee's 1,000." And the neighbor says, "I got 200,000 of investment assets." So the guy charges 2,000. And that's just a false equivalency. That's not how it works.
The correct analogy would be how many miles of piping do I have to crawl through in your house, and then I will charge you a percentage.
Yes, exactly. How complex?
Because money and plumbing problems are not correlated.
Yes, that's true. That is true. So that's a bit silly. And then he recommends that the customers or the readers of the article make sure that they ask their advisor, why exactly am I paying the fees I'm paying? Can you quantify the value of your services? And I guess you're supposed to copy and paste that into an email to your advisor and have fun with the response you get from that email.
I guarantee you, if your advisor is over the age of 40, the response you will get is, "Can we hop on a phone call tomorrow? Right. Are you free tomorrow?"
Because they don't want to put what they do into an email. Brooklyn FI is happy to put, we have standard responses to this because we add so much value on an ongoing basis to all of our young, very complex clients.
This podcast is brought to you by Brooklyn FI.
Yeah.
Financial advisors.
I love a good industry podcast or industry article, especially one that highlights how much value we add to clients as opposed to older advisors that don't have such thorough and in-depth relationships with their clients. Anyway, celebrities and billionaires. This is great. We have a new billionaire that is as obsessed with Lord of the Rings, potentially as us, potentially as obsessed as us.
Potentially? Potentially.
Yes. We have, of course, Mr. Peter Jackson.
There are quite a few billionaires obsessed with Lord of the Rings. I would say of all of the billionaires.
What is it about Lord of the Rings that attracts billionaires?
Nerds, dude. It's nerds.
People that okay. People that don't chill with their friends, instead they build companies. Fuck, that's what we do.
We're going to be such good billionaires. I'm so excited.
I'm going to be more of a Bilbo Bags than a billionaire. So yeah, so the title of this article from Forbes is Bilbo Bags a Billion. Lord of the Rings director Peter Jackson is officially a billionaire now. Good for him. Hey.
Good for Peter. Can we not forget about Fran Walsh, his wife and co-collaborator with Weta, with all the things he's done, who's also a billionaire because they're married? No? Anyway. Just wanted to throw that out there. She was not mentioned in the article at all.
She won't be mentioned until she divorces him and then gives away half that money.
Right.
AKA
I mean, this is definitely in it.
Mackenzie Scott.
Yeah, Mackenzie Scott. Yeah. I mean, this is a
one of the dopest
anyway.
billionaires to ever live. But yeah, this is a cool article. Unity Software purchased Weta Design. Weta, that's not Meta, upside down M. Weta, been around way earlier than Meta, which is a company founded by Peter Jackson before Lord of the Rings to make a movie called Heavenly Creatures, and then they used it for Lord of the Rings. Obviously, did a great job with building Gollum and that universe, which still holds up today in terms of CGI and believability. Was purchased by Unity Software, which is a software I'm very familiar with as a gamer, an occasional gamer. It's like a set of tools that you can use to build games, similar like Unreal Engine. You can, if you're going to build a game, you can build it from scratch, or you can use a certain amount of pre-assembled tools to try to speed up the development.
So you're saying that I could build my own video game with Weta Workshop characters, which would include the entire universe of Lord of the Rings now?
I am not going to say, I mean, sure. Yeah, sure. They have the rights to the asset. I'm not sure how they're going to utilize them, whether they're just going to use, like animations or code algorithms, what have you, or the actual literal Gollum. I mean, they're not going to use actual Gollum. So I don't think they bought the rights to Lord of the Rings. I think they bought the tools of Weta that were used to build Lord of the Rings. So,
but totally. the Weta stuff was owned by Weta. That was the whole thing, that it was licensed to the Lord of the Rings film to use. That was like why he got so rich off the movies, was like all those characters and all those like sculptures of the orcs and the creatures got licensed to all the merchandisers. Like that's why.
Anyway. Great. Love to hear it. Another interesting fact about this acquisition I didn't notice until I read the deep part of this article is apparently there's another billionaire obsessed with Lord of the Rings. That's Mr. Sean Parker, the original founder of Napster, who, if you've seen the network, what's it called? A social network played by Justin Timberlake, who I have a photo of with my dad because Justin's from Mississippi and used to go to the casinos where my dad worked. Very fun. Anyway, Sean Parker.
That was a great segue. Or not segue.
Owned 25%.
What are they called?
Tangents. Thank you. Yes. Anyway, Sean Parker owned 25% of Weta. So now he's even richer than he was before, since he was the first president of Facebook. Cool. All right. We got 3 articles in the fintech space. Moving forward, we have Google's pivot away from bank accounts. I don't know if any of our listeners owned any Google accounts. I didn't even know that Google had checking accounts. I
had no idea.
Yeah, when tech companies get into old traditional finance, it hasn't really made a dent. Banks really are Teflon. It seems like the big banks, they've been around a long time. Real estate apparently is quite important, and people need trust and history in the financial relationship space. Anyway, so they couldn't put a dent into the banking space, so they're going to get out of retail banking and repivot back to a digital economic marketplace or a digital marketplace. There is Google Pay, right? It's that button you never press when you're buying something on Instagram. Never once. But I didn't even know you can get a Google bank account. I don't know why the hell you would want a Google bank account based on how.
Why would you want that?
Based on how the company didn't even allow you to go into incognito mode without all of your data being traced and getting sued for that. Do you really think they're going to do good work with your data in your checking account?
No, the trust is. I mean, that's the problem. Is the trust isn't there. Like banks' biggest asset and their biggest clout is that they are trustworthy because you see the bank. Like you can walk up to the bank. There's bricks and brick and mortar. Like you think your money's in there. It is not, folks. Your money is not sitting in that bank vault.
I almost love how shitty Chase Bank is, because they're not analyzing that data because they can barely get me a statement, right? Like, there's no machine learning going on
but
behind.
Also, like there's so much disruption going on in the bank space right now. Like there's so many new cool online banks that offer like incredible features. Like we have accounts at Mercury Bank, which is
Relay.
A bank specifically for startups. We've got Relay. I've got Daylight, which is a bank launching
Great
soon.
bank,
which is
Daylight.
Like, yeah. But it's interesting. Like
that's a niche
all
bank,
these like
right?
online.
It's the first niche bank I've ever heard of. Daylight.
Yeah,
well, I guess
Daylight specifically.
Silicon Valley Bank's kind of a niche bank, but that's a business niche. This is more of like what kind of niche is Daylight?
Yeah, so Daylight specifically serves customers in the LGBTQ community. So if you're a trans person and you have your former dead name that's going to show up on like all your financial statements and you haven't legally changed your name, Daylight will like respect and will issue you a bank card in your new name. So they're like
Beautiful.
going after that niche, which is, yeah, it's awesome. Love that company. What was I gonna say? But like all these like new banks that have incredible online portals and tools and services, most of them have underlying, like, the banks are run by the states. So most of them have like your underlying like mom and pop,
Actual bank.
the 65-year-old dude in the suit who's actually like writing the loans and moving the money around. So like we haven't quite made it into like a true online banking environment yet, except I would say for like crypto is truly outside of the traditional, banking system. But most of these like new cool banks are just skins over your old traditional, SunWest Trust Bank on the corner of the Pep Boys and Macy's Auto Mall or whatever.
First National Bank, Bank of the
First National Bank, there you go.
Ozarks.
First Third
Give me
Bank.
some regional Bancorp South regions.
I'm gonna start a collection of like 80s banking logo merch, like
Ooh.
duffel bags and sweatshirts.
Sick. Love to see it. We've got 2 SEC articles here, really around the same topic, and I would like to talk about it's Brooklynify related as well. I am the chief compliance officer of Brooklynify, so I am interested. Which is what was that? For those of you that are listening instead of watching, AJ is throwing a big L sign on her forehead.
An LOL sign.
Oh, an LOL.
No, you're a great chief
I have the
compliance
longest
officer.
hair of any chief compliance officer.
We're incredibly compliant. We nail compliance.
Yeah, we went through
we take cybersecurity way more seriously than any other firm, I would argue.
I mean, we were audited by the SEC as a standard. We just registered with them earlier this year, and one of their focuses is initial registrations to make sure anyone that's new to the game. Well, we're not new to the game, but when you reach a certain threshold and you move up to the major leagues, they really go in and make sure you're doing everything right. The only thing that they got excited about was that I'm not reading my financial advisor's Instagram DMs to make sure they're not guaranteeing returns to their whoever's following them. So we're just gonna have to set up a little cyber archiving of
yeah. Shout out to the client who DM'd me, should I buy an NFT, which I could not respond to, client, sorry, because I cannot give investment advice via Instagram.
Right. So yeah, there's that. Well, the SEC was not so excited about the robo-advisor's approach to investment advice. Nearly all robo-advisors, here's an famag.com article. SEC slams almost all robo-advisors with deficiency letters, which is another a jargon word for slap on the wrist, and it requires them not to make any monetary compensation or punitive damages, but to fix these things immediately, or we will go deeper. And we have a lot of things to say about the way that you do business. And, one of the things that I found really funny about this is that some robo-advisors offered inadequate disclosures about the human element of their services, such as whether they cost extra and involved assigned financial professionals according to the regulator. So yeah, they're moving assets around with algorithms, but they have human beings involved that they're not disclosing. So if you're listening to this and you think that robo-advisors are going to do the job for you and get the same amount of work done, then keep in mind that they're not occasionally not even disclosing that the human beings are involved in the first place. That's one takeaway. What do you have on this, AJ?
Yeah, I mean, there's this bit about robo-advisors' websites implied that investor accounts would be safeguarded against market declines, while the
Yikes.
SIPC only protects the custody function of a broker-dealer in the event of the firm's failure, which basically means, and I've actually seen this in practice. I've had clients come in and say, well, does Brooklynify offer SIPC insurance? My account over here does. And it's like, of course, like we have to provide that. But SIPC insurance, which is sort of like FDIC insurance, which insures your bank account, if the bank implodes and there's no cash left, it'll cover your cash in that bank. SIPC is for when a broker dealer would go belly up and completely fail. It doesn't actually protect you against a downturn in the market, right? So that's a big, huge red flag if these companies were falsely advertising that you wouldn't lose money if the market took a downturn. Like, huge yikes there.
Yeah, a lot of fun there. Well, that's all of the articles that we have this week. AJ, you want to read us out?
Wait, I didn't do my CEO question.
You have 18 seconds.
I'm going to slide it in. All right. My CEO crush of the week is Jack Altman, who's the CEO of Lattice, a fantastic HR employee feedback tool. that is the show this week. Jack Altman will talk about you next
7,
time.
6, 5.
Thanks for listening. We're the Liquidity Event at brooklynfy.com. Later.
Bye.